Metro TV, 30 seconds, please. Good afternoon. Time is 4:03 p.m. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Public Safety Committee. I'm your chair, Councilman Dan Syme, and I'm joined by Vice Chair, Councilwoman Tammy Hawkins. Today we have the following committee members in attendance: Councilman Joseph, Councilman Reed, Councilman Piagentini is here, Councilman Mulvey-Woolridge, Councilman Winkler, Councilwoman Rui, and on video we have Councilman Bratcher, Councilman Owen, and Councilwoman Parrish-Wright. Thank you all for joining. Clerk, will you please read the virtual meeting language?
This meeting is being held pursuant to KRS 61.826 and Council Rule 5A, read in full.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We've got 3 items on the agenda. 1 item for discussion, 1 for ordinance, 1 resolution. The ordinance, I believe, is still tabled. That's number 2. And we've got number 3 we want to call up first. Clerk, would you read item number 3 into the record?
A resolution authorizing the mayor to accept $503,738 from the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development through the Government Resources Accelerating Needed Transformation Grant Program to be administered by the Department of Emergency Services, read in full.
Thank you for the motions. We have sponsor Scott Reed. Councilman Reed, would you like to present this? Do you have a speaker?
We have Mr. Myman here. I think would like to talk to it, and then I'll come in after him.
Thank you. You can have the floor.
Thank you, guys. Jody Myman, I'm the Executive Director for the City of Louisville Emergency Management. So directly after the April 2025 flooding event, we had an incident out in the Harrods Creek area where land sloughed off underneath 5 properties, immediately affecting 2 of them, but indirectly affecting 3 others. But it turned out to be an emergency mitigation project. We were able to partner with the National Resource Conservation Services, that's the part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, for funding with this. This was something that needed to take place. We were able to obtain funding at a 75-25% cost, so 75% would be federally funded immediately, and then 25% of the cost was funded by Metro, again, due to the emergency nature. To a total of just over about $2.8 million was the total scope of the project, which Metro's share was just over $697,000. There's 4 parts of the project. There's a soil nail stabilization project, a 30-foot tall shotcrete wall, permanent benching for additional flood protection and future flood protection, and then a 40-foot deep sheet piling wall that's 350 feet long to additionally shore up these the homes and the rest of the land. It's moving along. It's about 60% completed. If you drive by just on US 42 and you look to the north, you can actually see the project taking place. So like I said, it's moving along very well. But I'm going to turn it over to Susan Durham because her office has done a phenomenal job to get some of the Metro's cost paid back to us. So that's part of the resolution. Susan?
Hello, Susan Durham, Mayor's Office, Office of Intergovernmental Affairs. I worked with EMA and KIPTA, which is the regional lead on the grant program of 2024 matching funds, to complete an application that we would submit along with the resolution and a letter of support from the mayor to receive this $500,000 plus to match our federal expenses. And this is an eligible project. We expect to receive the funds shortly after submission of the application.
Thank you. I have a speaker in the queue. Councilman Reed, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank Jody and his team for what was a very, very difficult situation. You know, these things don't happen very often in and around the city, specifically in District 16. And, you know, I think we were faced with whose responsibility it was. You know, the homeowners were very frustrated, and rightly so. But I think that under the circumstances, his team, and you too, Susan, reacted as quickly as possible to get the best possible resolution, not only for the constituents, but also for the city in terms of these matching funds. So I just wanted to thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I don't see anybody else in the queue. Any virtual remarks? None? Hearing none, this is a resolution. We can take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Resolution passes, and we'll go to the consent calendar. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Myman. Thank you. Okay. Today, we're joined by LMPD Deputy Chief Emily McKinley and Jennifer Coram with the Real-Time Crime Center for an update on flock automated license plate readers. We also have Chief Humphrey with us. Chief and Officer McKinley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Sam, and I'll start. I know in previous conversations we had talked about being able to give kind of a crime overview of where we stand, so I'll go over a couple of numbers, and then I will turn it over to Deputy Chief McKinley to give some specifics on flock. So just so you are up to date, can someone pull up the slideshow for us? So going over the numbers a little bit of where we stand, keeping in mind that we're still pretty early in the year, so slight changes in the numbers make a large change in the percentage. Currently, we sit at 9 homicides compared to 7 at this time last year. Non-fatal shootings are also up slightly from 25 to 31. We have seen a drop in both carjackings and business robberies, so that's a positive. When it comes to property crime, which is not shown on this slide, early on we are down 21% in burglaries. We're down 41% in auto thefts. However, we are up 21% in thefts from auto. And so I think what we're seeing early in the year is we have a fluctuation in numbers, both some improving and some sliding, and that's part of what we're trying to figure out right now. I know particularly last year compared to this year, the weather in January makes a huge difference. And early last year, we had extremely, extremely cold temperatures very early on that we didn't have this year. We got our kind of end of January dip in the temperatures. So we're trying to really pay attention to what's going on here. Obviously, those increases are concerning anytime we have any increase at all. However, you know, we've updated our crime plan. We're still sticking with what worked last year and pushing that forward. As we go forward, I want to kind of give you just an overview of what we're trying to do with technology as we go into the flock conversation. And we are trying to layer our technology uses so that at every level, we have something that's supporting officers in being able to combat and solve violent crime. So flock will be a tool that our ALPRs, automated license plate readers, will be something that we talk about today. But we layer that with things like the Drone as First Responder program through MetroSafe, which last night the Criminal Interdiction Division, and in conjunction with SWAT, was able to get a stolen car with 2 convicted felons with guns in the car. The Drone as First Responder took off from the one on top of our headquarters, followed the car down Chestnut, and they ultimately stopped it on the expressway and got in a foot chase. It was outstanding. And then you combine that with the patrol drone program that I know we've talked about at length here for several years, and we're getting that up and running, and we have 14 drones that are out there in the patrol program, and we're seeing success after success with that. You combine that with tools like the grapplers that we've outfitted the SWAT team with. where we've seen success. We actually utilized that last night in the first incident I was talking about. But part and parcel to a lot of that technology success that we're seeing are the automated license plate readers. And so I'll turn this over to Deputy Chief McKinley, and she's going to go over how they function, how we've deployed them, and some of our successes and how we've utilized them over the course of the past couple of years.
Deputy Chief for LMPD. You know, automated license plate readers are, it turns a needle in a haystack, looking for a needle in a haystack, to a beacon for officers and detectives. It provides real-time actionable intelligence when every second matters, when we're talking about serious violent crime in our city. And we're not just recovering property, it's not just about stolen cars. These are about solving our most serious crimes, protecting our most vulnerable victims, and using technology to drive officers to the right areas, to the right people, focusing on the right vehicles, and making sure that we are driving crime down, getting those homicide numbers down, getting those shooting numbers down. It's not just about arrest, and I'll tell some stories throughout this presentation. I think we have 4 or 5 cases that we're going to go over that are recent that we'll talk about, but it's not just about violent crime, it's also about finding missing people. People who are in crisis, people who have diminished capacity or are missing. We've used this technology to locate those people too. So it's saving lives and it's protecting people. To go over a little bit about the software and costs and how that works, the functions of it. LMPD has about 240 cameras that are operational that LMPD owns. Our total ecosystem of ALPRs includes devices from other cities and also privately owned businesses and homeowners associations. So there's hundreds, about 300 or 400 from small cities and then homeowners associations and businesses and that sort of thing. We also have other ALPRs that are not the Flock brand. So there are several of the police cars. So a lot of our police cars have ALPRs in the dash cam of the police car, and that is through another company, not necessarily Flock. Flock is just one company that provides ALPRs. We also have ALPRs on some of our mobile cameras that we might deploy in certain details or certain events that we might deploy. They have ALPRs that might not necessarily be Flock brand. So Flock is just a brand of ALPR. A lot of the locations are chosen based on violent crime statistics, auto theft hotspots, and then major roadways and ingress and egress, exit ramps, on-ramps of interstates, infrastructure of that location if it can handle the installation of a camera. Some of the cameras are installed on fixed posts. Some of them are installed on posts that the company provides, and they're solar powered. So you kind of see 2 different types of cameras that are throughout the city. The annual subscription, so each camera costs about $3,000 per year. We do have some cameras in LMPD where we pay $2,500 a year, and those were grandfathered in under a previous contract. So some of our cameras are $2,500, and then some of the newer cameras are $3,000 per year. And those, going forward, that's the current price for the Flock contract. There is a small annual fee for maintenance and that sort of thing for each camera. When a camera is damaged, it costs about $1,000 to replace and repair those cameras as well. So, and we have had cameras damaged recently after some of the locations have been disclosed. There were about 4 cameras that were recently damaged, and it's about $1,000 or so to fix and repair those. When we talk about data retention, so the data for the Flock system is purged on a rolling 30-day basis. So data stays in that system for 30 days. After 30 days, it is gone and deleted. So we hold our data for 30 days. I think there's some legislation being proposed right now at the state level, and the proposal is to hold the data for 90 days. Well, we are well within that 90-day range already. We have no intention of extending it beyond 30 days. It's worked well for us with the 30-day retention. When officers log in, and I'm going to demonstrate a login, I have a video where we demonstrate a login, but there's a two-factor authentication login, and then officers also have to provide a valid NIBRS code. So a NIBRS code, NIBRS stands for National Incident-Based Reporting System, and that is a code that connects the search to a particular crime. So this is not just a catalog or a Google of license plates that officers can just go search through for no reason. You have to have a NIBRS code that connects that search to a particular crime. And then you also have to type in further a reason of why you're searching it. So you might have a NIBRS search code of murder, and then your reason is suspect vehicle or victim's vehicle or whatever connection to that particular case would be. You also, officers would also put the case number in. So if they have a report number or a case number that's associated with the particular crime, they would also enter that case number in. So again, there's a lot of things that officers have to enter before they even can look at license plates or any sort of images that are produced through Flock. Flock also, it's not a video camera. These are not videos. They are still photos of vehicles. There are also still photos that are taken from the rear of the vehicle because that's where the license plate is. And I'm going to show some pictures and some examples of those. And you'll see that you cannot see necessarily inside of the vehicle. It's the back of the car from an elevated distance. You cannot identify drivers or occupants of a vehicle or anything that's inside of that car. We also, this year, with the assistance of Flock, have implemented controls on searches that would relate to immigration. So we have instituted filters where any keyword that would associate with immigration, that if an officer or anyone was to put that into a Flock search, that it would block from our database whatsoever. So you would not be able to search for any immigration-related terms within our Flock database. Next, I'm going to show, there's been a lot of discussion about where cameras are and how many are in each, whether patrol division as well as council districts. So first, I'm going to show a map of LMPD's patrol divisions, and then the number of cameras, Flock cameras, that are allocated within each of these patrol divisions. And so you kind of see the first division has, well, let's start at the 8th division because it's listed in order of how many in each division. So the 8th division has 169, the 7th division has 108, the 3rd division has 93, the 6th division has 70, the 4th division has 59, the 5th division has 44, the 1st division has 37, the 2nd division has 36. And you can see the sizes of the divisions on the maps as well. The 8th division, the 7th division, and the 3rd division are very large divisions. The 1st and the 2nd and the 4th divisions are some of the smaller divisions. So this is, go ahead.
And just to chime in here to give a little bit of further understanding about the deployment on these. These are cameras that we have total access to, systems that we have access to, not simply the ones that LMPD has installed. So for instance, if you're talking about the 1st division, out of those 37, 28 of those are LMPD devices versus the 8th division, that 169, only 22 of those are LMPD or Metro installed devices. So you're looking at a difference based on homeowners associations, private companies that have put those in certain areas. The other thing is when you think about the geography of those areas, we are putting those in high traffic areas and things like that. So we don't put them necessarily on the side streets because we are trying to get cars coming and going from areas. So the geography also plays a large role in that.
Right. The next slide, this is broken down by council district, and we're happy to provide this to you all after the presentation, but this is the distribution per council district. Again, you see the shared devices, so these are going to be devices owned by homeowners associations, businesses, private companies, and then the LMPD owned devices, and then the total for those particular areas. So we talked about what it looks like. So these are just a few examples. The blue vehicle here is a recent stolen vehicle, and it was stolen from the 6th Division. And so the officer was able to take that report and immediately was able to get a hit on Flock, or an alert on Flock, that vehicle is now seen at Outer Loop and New Cut Road, which is a completely different division. So that's now the 3rd Division. And so what the officer did was is able to email that photo to the department to alert officers in the area, or whomever might be driving in the 3rd Division or working in the 3rd Division, that, hey, I just took this stolen vehicle report in the 6th, and it's showing that it's over here at New Cut and Outer Loop. And it gives officers a direction and some awareness to be on the lookout for that vehicle, somewhere to look, versus prior to Flock, you would just put the BOLO out of, hey, I just took a stolen vehicle report for a 2014 blue Honda Accord. It was taken from this area, have no idea where it is. So officers would maybe just drive around and they might see a blue Honda Accord, and now they're stopping any blue Honda Accord to see if that's the stolen vehicle. This directs officers to exactly an area to go to look for that car. The white van, this was a privately owned camera that helped us with a very large theft ring from Lowe's. So the white van were occupied by suspects who were going and traveling to different states, stealing a large quantity of construction supplies from Lowe's, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And here in Louisville, they were able to capture them on one of the Flock cameras at Lowe's, that Lowe's owns, and then direct officers to locate that vehicle and make those arrests and reduce that large commercial theft ring. The yellow truck was a homicide victim's vehicle. So the victim of the homicide was found, and detectives realized that his vehicle was missing, and so didn't know if the victim left it somewhere, didn't know if it was stolen by suspects. All they knew that he drove a yellow truck, and so you can search, even if you don't know the license plate, you can search for very particular vehicle descriptors in Flock. And so they were able to search for a yellow pickup truck, whatever the make and model are, and then find the victim's vehicle and where it is. So they were able to find the victim's vehicle shortly after his death, and then lead to additional leads in that case. So again, a variety of different ways that cases are investigated using Flock. And then just some examples of what you see when you have a Flock image. And then I'm going to go through, again, do you have anything? Okay. 4 or 5 cases that are recent. So this was back in January 20th. 6th Division officers pulled up on a male who had been down or struck by a vehicle in the 3000 block of Breckenridge Lane. This is right in front of the McMahon Plaza Kroger. The man unfortunately passed away from his injuries after being struck by a vehicle. It was a hit and run. Officers were able to review nearby video at the Kroger in that parking lot and determine that the suspect vehicle was a maroon pickup truck. Using Flock, they were able to put descriptions of that vehicle into Flock and get images of that vehicle recently traveling, and was able to make that arrest of the female here. She was arrested for DUI and murder after doing the hit and run in that Kroger parking lot. But Flock was instrumental in identifying the suspect and making that quick arrest, and also recovering evidence. Blood was able to be recovered from that vehicle as well. This is the demonstration that I'm going to show of when an officer is going to search for a vehicle in Flock, the information that they need to put into the search parameters to conduct any search. So you log in, this is what you see. You don't see any vehicles, and you have to make a search and the parameters that you need to enter. I'll play this video, kind of talk through it. They are going to search, so when we made this video, we're going to search for the truck that you saw on the previous slide. This is not necessarily the search that the detectives did for that particular case, but we are going to enter that license plate of the truck that you saw so that you'll see that particular truck pop up. So right here, they're going to enter the offense type. So there's a NIBRS, these are NIBRS code offenses. So they enter that. They enter the case number. So this is the report number, the LMPD report number for that hit and run. And then the detective is indicating that this is a hit and run, a vehicular homicide case that they're working. And then they're going to enter the suspect's license plate. Then they're also going to say that they want this in the Louisville metro region, and then enter the date range that you're looking for. And so you get images of that vehicle that was seen on various flock cameras during that date range, and you're able to, from the different images, attain different descriptors. So that you can see there's different angles there, and you can see the different stickers. So a lot of times we need particulars on bumper stickers or other dents or luggage racks or things that might be in the bed of trucks, and we're able to get that information there. It also generates images at night and is able to recognize license plates in day or in the dark. The second case that I'll speak about is a homicide. So this was a homicide from February 6th. So this is just recently over in the 3rd Division on Winstead Drive. A female was leaving her work and she was shot in the parking lot by an unknown male subject who got into a vehicle and fled the scene. Officers were able to ascertain the description of the vehicle from some witnesses, search flock and identify the vehicle, and then eventually, which led to the arrest of the gentleman here in the picture. So again, flock led to identification of a suspect vehicle, and then quickly detectives were able to make that arrest and apprehension. Again, prior to flock, what we would have had, and this is when we rode the beat and when I was a homicide detective, I did not have flock when I worked homicide. You had a suspect vehicle description, and you would put that out over the radio. And let's say it was a blue Toyota Tundra. So you had a blue Toyota Tundra was your suspect vehicle. Now what you have is officers throughout the entire city stopping every blue Toyota Tundra that they can find. And they're unnecessarily making police encounters with people in a dangerous situation, because that's a very high-risk situation. You might be stopping a homicide suspect, so the officer's going to be elevated. It's potentially probably going to be a felony stop, which means officers' guns are going to be drawn. And if that's the wrong suspect, if that's not the right person, that's a very scary situation for people to be in, and that's not something that we don't want to put people in. So we need to direct officers and detectives to the right people, to the right vehicles, and that's exactly what this technology does. The third case that I'll talk about is a missing person. So this is in the Fern Creek area. This is back in October, but a elderly male, he was 89 years old. He dropped his wife off at at Kohl's, and he was going to stay in the car, and she was going to go shop. Well, she comes out, and he is nowhere to be found. The car's gone, and he's 89. And so police come, they take a missing persons report, and they're able to enter her car into flock, enter that license plate in as a missing person, and they're able to get a hit out in Mount Washington. So Mount Washington, we have access to cameras out in Mount Washington, and we were able to locate him. He had wandered away and kind of had some dementia issues there, and so we were able to safely find him, make sure that he was safe very quickly. The fourth case, this was a shooting back in January, so this is January 11th. There was a shooting. A male was shot while he was pumping gas here at the Duramart, which is at the corner of 7th and Hill. Officers get surveillance video, so that's the photograph on the left is the surveillance video of the suspect vehicle fleeing. So we can see that it's some sort of gold sedan. And the suspect, the video, they're able to identify the make and model of the car. And then they're able to get from a nearby flock camera a license plate. And then shortly later throughout the day, they're able to get another hit on that particular license plate. And that vehicle went into Radcliffe, and they were able to make an arrest down in Radcliffe by getting indications that that vehicle was traveling southbound on Dixie Highway. They were able to make an arrest of an adult and 6 juveniles and recover 2 handguns from that vehicle after this shooting. And the last case that I'll talk about is something that happened today. So this morning, about 7 a.m., carjacking occurred in the 1100 block of Lydia Street. This is in our 4th Division. And RTCC was able to get the license plate as officers were responding and the victim's on the phone with the call taker. They're able to get the license plate and all the information for the car. RTCC enters that into flock. And immediately they start getting some hits on that vehicle. And so they're able to direct 3rd and 4th Division officers as well as members of our SWAT team to the areas where that vehicle was alerting. And so you can kind of see on this map, the first alert, the second alert, it's traveling southbound down Dixie Highway. The third alert, the fourth alert, it goes onto some side streets. And they ultimately are able to take 2 suspects into custody without incident in less than 2 hours of that carjacking. Had we not had flock, we would just have it was a white Subaru, that's the stolen vehicle, and you're just kind of looking for a needle in a haystack. And so that's exactly what we don't want. But this technology was able to make 2 arrests very safely, recover some firearms, and get that vehicle back to its owner. So. Again, this presentation, I think, highlights the impact that this technology has on public safety. I know we respect the privacy and security of everyone, but we also need to make sure that we are using technology in the most appropriate ways to keep our community safe. And I think through these examples, these are very recent examples. There are many, many more. We use this every day. This is paying off in dividends here with public safety. And so at this time, I'll open it up for your all's questions, and thank you all for having us.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. We do have some questions, and the first one would be my co-chair, Councilwoman Hawkins, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for being here today first. Normally I got a lot of questions, but you answered a lot of them, in this. But I do want to commend you because this matches up, this data, and it's very candid and very transparent. So I want to say thank you for that. That is the closest that I've ever seen to my data and me feeling like that I'm the data and what you all put up there today. So I want to say thank you for that. That is like close to perfection. Thank you for that. Major Elin, I want to talk to you about, Emily, I want to talk to you about this $3,000, right? Is it $3,000?
Yes.
For each
Yes, ma'am.
one?
Yes, ma'am.
So, my division is Division 1, and I think I only had like 37 of them, is that correct?
I would need to go back and look at that.
I think it was 37 and maybe
Yes,
7.
37 total.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, do I just pay for some more? Because, one of my area is probably one of the ones that homicides is up. So I definitely want to revisit
We will
that with
welcome
you
the
all.
additional technology in the
Yes.
First Division.
And I want to know, what tools are you all using to market, as far as to get, so I can get my constituents to want to share into the system? So what marketing tools are you allowing people to have to know that that is an option? Businesses, homeowners, HOAs?
Yeah. So when we talk about sharing cameras, there's a website, and it's connectlouisville.org. Is that right? Okay, so connectlouisville.org, and people can go there and they can register their cameras. So if you don't want to share cameras with the police department, or that's fine. But say something happens in your or around your house or in your neighborhood or on your street, and you just want to let us know that you have a camera, come talk, like you're available to come talk, here's the contact information. You can go to connectlouisville.org and you can register that, hey, I have a Ring doorbell camera, or I have this security camera, here's my contact information if something happens. Businesses can also go there and they can, if they would like, to share video footage with the police department if things were to happen at their company or their place of business, that the real-time crime center could port in and see what's happening. So if there's a shooting at a gas station, the gas station is in the Connect Louisville, they could get in and see exactly what's happening and direct people there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Next in queue would be Councilman Winkler, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for being here. I've got a couple of questions. The first one that I'm going to ask relates to, in something you said, Assistant Chief McKinley, was, we have access to the Mount Washington data. Mm-hmm. Can either of you speak to what are the limits placed on our data to outside agencies? What does Flock do with our data? And then you mentioned that we retain it for 30 days. Does Flock retain it any longer? So if you could just sort of answer around who can access the images that are captured within Jefferson County, and how long that's stored, or whether that's all governed by our policy and we protect our data.
How many?
We have access to about 43,000 devices across the nation, and many departments throughout the nation have access to view our data, but it is our data.
Okay.
And if we do not share it with another law enforcement agency,
Deputy Chief,
So,
would you like to
I'll-
bring her up to speak on this?
Well, I'll go ahead. I just want to make sure that we confirm the correct data. So we have access to numerous agencies around the country, and I think she said something like 43,000 cameras total. But we have to give access to only other law enforcement agencies, so there are no private entities that they have to actually get that permission from us. As well as Flock doesn't store our data beyond our retention policy. It's not continued to be stored. So it is purged out of the system after 30 days, unless it is connected to a crime, and then it has to be connected via that case file.
So Chief, if I could ask a clarifying question there. You said, we don't give access to private entities, but other police departments. So my question is, if I'm an officer in New York City or Los Angeles or Phoenix, Arizona, or you name it, do I automatically get access to our Flock camera data, or do you have to grant it specifically?
We have to grant that. And in order to get something from us, let's say, I don't know if NYPD has access to ours, but let's say there's a car that NYPD is looking for, they would have to have that particular car, and then they would have to search that car, and it would have to be in Louisville popping up on one of our cameras. So it's not as if they could just randomly search, I want to see what's going on in the ALPR systems in Louisville, Kentucky.
And they have the same search filters and requirements that our officers do as far as putting in NIBRS codes and search reasons. And then they are also filtered with the same filters when I talked about the immigration filters. Those are all, it's not just us, that's every single person that would have access to, or that we would grant access to search our data.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think, it's an interesting issue to contemplate, right? Because on one hand, what makes a network effective is, the wider the network, the more effective it is. And if you put walls up and you don't have access to the Mount Washington data or wherever else, the effectiveness of the system goes down. On the other hand, we have local regulations that might differ across communities across the country, and how do you ensure that agencies that are in other jurisdictions are adhering maybe to the standards that we've set here or that they've set there, right? I mean, it goes both ways. So I think, you know, just something that I'd be curious to learn more about. I want to shift one quick question, sort of financially related. You know, I know lots of offices have funded flock cameras. I believe in part of our contract when we set those up, when we do a request for them, it includes the first 3 years of service. Can you speak to what's LMPD's plans? You know, we're probably in year 2 or approaching year 3 of this program. Once that 3 years runs out, are you planning to come back to the council office and say, hey, if you want this flock camera to stay on, we need another X dollars? Or do you plan on just putting that in your run rate, or have you not even thought about that?
Yes, sir. So that is definitely something we've thought about, because those cameras are the first 2 years. And so we are coming up on the point where that is going to be part of our operational budget request, is to continue to fund the operation of those systems that were Metro Council requested.
And then, if I may, just one last question, and this is just sort of a broader technology question. I know in some jurisdictions, I lived in a city prior where they had ALPRs mounted on cruisers, and if I understand how this technology works, like they're actively scanning the license plates as the officer is driving, and then maybe alerting them that, hey, this plate comes back as, you know, is a stolen vehicle, and so, you know, that's happening in an automated fashion. Are there any plans for us to look at that sort of technology, or any other technologies that are emerging that enhance the work of the men and women of LMPD, you know, be it sky cams, or, you know, I know you talked a little bit about the drones, but any sort of other technologies that you might be looking at to continue to enhance the work that you do?
Yes, sir. And it kind of works two ways. So we used to have some of those systems that you have to mount on the outside of the car. Now they're starting to be integrated into our in-car cameras. So it becomes automated that way, and a lot more can be out there. So it happens a couple of ways. So there's things that get entered into NCIC, so like stolen cars, cars related to felonies that they have warrants out for, violent felony warrants, missing persons, and the officer can set it up so that they are automatically notified when those types of cars, they pass them or they're close to them or come up as a hit on one of the cameras. The other way is if you have an active investigation going on and you're trying to identify that specific car, as Deputy Chief McKinley was just talking about, you can set it up to flag for a specific car. That's going to flag to you, not throughout the entire system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so those in-car, that we have some of that already, and we're planning on having more of it, or like?
Yes, sir. So as we've upgraded our camera systems throughout the fleet, and I don't know the exact percentage of our fleet that is outfitted with them yet, but as we change that over, yes.
Thank you, Councilman. Next in queue would be Councilman Piagentini, please.
Thank you. Just got two topics I wanted to breach. One was recent reporting that sort of accused the technology, or at least the police department's use of the technology, and that it could be race-based. And they were using outcomes related to how many of one, in this case, racial demographic, were arrested using this technology. So my question to sort of kick things off are, does LMPD hate men? Are you sexually biased against men?
No, sir.
No, sir. Okay. Because 48.8% of the Louisville population are men, but somewhere between 72 to 74% of the violent crime, or the violent criminals that we arrest are men. How about is LMPD biased against non-Hispanic people?
No, sir.
I didn't think so. But Hispanic folks of any race make up just short of 10% of the population. They only make up between 0.5% to 1% of the violent crime arrests in our city. And then I'll just pick on another one. Asian residents, right, they make up roughly 2.9% of the population. They make up less than 0.5% of the violent criminal arrests. I don't think you're anti-men or you're biased pro or against Hispanic or non-Hispanic folks. I'm just once again driving home the absurdity of people confusing discrimination with disparity. And I just want to bring it back to, I appreciate that LMPD has gone the step of hiring, I believe it's called Sigma Squared, correct? The contractor who is doing the, I would argue, proper data analysis to both inform LMPD of any legitimate areas where there could be discrimination, but also to debunk this nonsense about how technology like this. And I think when you showed that you can't even see the driver in these cases, number one, and number two, what we found out by showing the council level data is that Councilman Reed, almost by a 2-to-1, has the most cameras in his district, and then Councilman Kramer and I have the second most at 49 cameras apiece. So again, I think the data shows that they're quite interestingly and dispersed across the city. Now again, it differentiates between who's paying for it and all of this. The last thing I want to address is there's been question of oversight, right? Like the public getting access to where these cameras are. I think, first of all, I agree with the Attorney General's decision. I'm glad he made his decision, which supports LMPD's position related to disclosing it ubiquitously to the public. And then your example of what happened when some were disclosed to the public, that they were almost immediately destroyed to the cost of thousands of taxpayer dollars and the complete inability to then use those cameras, shows and demonstrates why this is a bad idea. But just to clarify something, the federal government has the ability, has their legislative body, Congress, has the ability to go into closed sessions to do oversight of sensitive, for example, intelligence that the federal government engages in. State legislators, the House and the Senate in the Kentucky chamber in Frankfurt, have the legal ability to go into closed sessions. Are you aware of any circumstance that we are legally allowed to go into a closed session where the legislators here could take a look at sensitive tactics, for example, and sensitive data for LMPD to execute that oversight without giving full access to the public? Are you aware of any circumstance where we're legally allowed to do that?
Yes, sir, and I appreciate the question. I do believe that on a one-on-one basis, we are very open to explaining to each council member where they are within their council districts or otherwise. I think I've made the decision that we don't want to give out individual specific locations because it might, one, open them to vandalism or damage, but the other thing is I don't want to make it easier for criminals to avoid the system. Right. And I understand people's concern about disparate deployment of the system, that could be race-based or based on unethical reasons. However, I think this is why we wanted to show that how they've been distributed across the city, as well as show examples of what information we're actually getting to show that we are following the data and the crime, not necessarily the person.
Right. And I appreciate your willingness to meet one-on-one. You guys have always been great about that, zero issue. But until the state gives this body the ability to have a closed session to look at sensitive information, to provide oversight when there are questions of full access to that information to the public, then quite frankly, there will never be an opportunity to execute that type of oversight. So I hope that what comes out of this question, right, is a revisiting with the state legislature about giving, again, in an extremely limited capacity. I think open meetings are a great thing. But in this case where we're talking tactics and data that cannot be shared, and yet we do want there to be some oversight, so the executive branch themselves has a check which we provide as a legislative body, then we need to be given the tool, which is the same tool that the state has and the federal government has, which is being allowed in those limited circumstances to go into a closed session where we could do that instead of just one-on-one, do that in a closed meeting with legislators where we could then look at the data and be more and be able to discuss that more openly amongst ourselves. So thank you very much. I'm very excited about what this technology is doing. I can tell you, I mean, you can see how many, you mentioned how many in the 8th Division, where my whole district is, how many of those are funded by HOAs or suburban cities, which in many cases the flock cameras in my district are. We are thrilled with the results and the ability to use this as a tactic to drive down crime. So thanks very much for using it and coming today to talk about it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Next in queue would be Councilwoman Mulvey Woolridge, please.
Thank you. First, again, thank you for being here. I appreciate all the information. Continue looking for how technology can partner with our officers, the process, and as well as our procedures. So again, appreciate that. So Councilman Simon and I were at an event last night, and it's just timely that we were asked a lot of questions about flock, and was very open with the fact of, I don't know, but I will ask your questions because I'm not willing or able to answer them. I hope you know that I'm always forward with that. I don't want to answer something I don't know. So one of those is, what is the process for removing vehicles from flock? And the reason that came up is someone expressed a concern. I don't know how long ago this was, but they said that they had someone who was pulled over because a ping came up possibly on a car camera. I don't know. They were pulled over, but it happened to be a car that had been returned. It was stolen at one point and then returned to that person. Do you know that process after a car is returned?
Yes, I do. So that would have been, that car was not removed from NCIC. And so there had to have been some error on the part of that recovery of that vehicle and notifying NCIC, so the National Crime Information Center, that car had been recovered. And so that's why that car was still alerting within flock. Flock is going to, it's not, the car is not in flock. The car is in NCIC.
Got it.
And so the system, flock, any ALPR system is just alerting on an NCIC hit. So the car was never removed from NCIC, so that it would have been an error on that part, not necessarily on the ALPR part.
Thank you. Yeah, I kind of was gathering that when you said that the vehicle cameras, were automatically connected with NCIC, but so
Yeah.
appreciate you making that connection. Do you know, and you may not know this because it may be a conversation with Flock, if there has been any review of AI with Flock, meaning if there is a report made of taking that information and automatically putting in to create that search, so it's not so manual. So you're taking that case number and taking that car information and automatically taking those pictures, uploading it, instead of it making such a manual process for an officer. You may not know that answer right now. I don't know what it would take to get there, but again, questions that were asked.
So not that I know of, but I think we all can see AI is kind of moving exponentially fast, and so whether it's through Flock or ALPRs or our reporting system, I anticipate AI being a part of policing and all of our professions, in the future as we move forward, and especially finding ways to use AI to make officers' jobs easier and make officers more effective while also protecting the rights of people.
Right, agreed, thank you. And I think the last one that I have is, again, someone asked last night, this might be a question for code enforcement, but they said that they had gotten citation letters for their farm and commercial tags that were pinged on Flock. Again, you may not know that, so I may need to go to code enforcement and ask them.
I have no idea about that, but I do not know of any. Flock does not generate any sort of citations, so I don't know the accuracy of that.
Yeah, and we've had that conversation before, how, there's not a citation that comes from that.
Right.
It's not anything is legal, so.
Right.
Again, appreciate that, and again, thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Next would be Councilman Reed, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you both for coming. I think it was either 2 or 3 years ago, Chief Humphrey came to a town hall at Norton Commons, and he said the policing, that technology was the future policing. You still believe that?
Yes, sir, 100%.
Good. So do I.
That said, it can't replace people.
No, of course. No, it embellishes, it helps. So, and I want to make everyone clear that of the 80 flock cameras that are in the 16th district, probably 75 are privately purchased. by HOAs in suburban cities. And my question to you is, are these suburban cities and HOAs communicating with you on their data?
So they don't necessarily have to, but that is why they install it. The HOAs, to my understanding, they can't go and search for Scott Reed's car. But if Scott Reed's involved in a crime, we can. So, yes, sir.
Okay, good. Because if they weren't, I was going to reach out to them individually. And this is just going to be my last question, because quite frankly, of all the questions that are on here, you guys have done a great job of answering everything proactively. So when an analyst reviews imagery or data from flock cameras, what vehicle interior details, if any, are visible, or number of occupants, race, ethnicity, et cetera?
It's very rare for us to be able to get any occupant information from that, and you can see from the images that we shared, that's generally what the photos look like. It's usually of the back of the car, and it's very difficult to see anyone inside the car on a regular basis.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you very much for coming.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. Next in queue would be Councilman Owen, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you guys for presenting. This is really helpful. I wonder whether you are collecting data on how many arrests are being driven by evidence that's generated through flock cameras, whether that's something that you're kind of, keeping separate. And then that's one. And two, this has to be driving better a percentage of cases that are being closed with arrest. Just wondering what you've seen over the last couple of years of this program, and how much you attribute that to this technology.
Sure. So the first question was about, what was the first one?
Arrest data.
The arrest data. So we do have the ability in our RMS for officers to check a box if an ALPR was used for this recovery of this vehicle or to assist in this arrest. That is something that we need to do better on as far as getting that out to officers, that you have the ability. We want to track this information. We want to know about how successful this technology and this equipment is. And so pushing that out to officers that, hey, when you recover a vehicle, please make sure that you're communicating that you were alerted through an ALPR, or you made an arrest that it was through an ALPR. So we do have some data. I don't necessarily know that it's perfect at this moment, and that could be something that down in the future that we could use AI to simplify for officers. Officers have to complete a lot of paperwork on a lot of things and check a lot of boxes, and sometimes that's something that is not checked because it's not something that is required. But that's something that I think we can do better as far as tracking that information.
And to the Deputy Chief's point, the information that we do have, while I think it probably is low, just for the calendar year so far, Flock has assisted with the recovery of 32 vehicles and on 53 investigations.
Thank you. I think I'm certainly a data person, and statistics are really important. And if we're investing, in the technology, it would be very helpful to know, how effective it is. And again, I don't want to add paperwork, so it would be great to be able to do it AI. But I think the more information we can present, both to Metro Council, to the council members, but also to our constituents about how effective this is, that most people aren't sitting watching Metro TV watching this presentation today. And so we see the effectiveness of this in a way that our constituents don't. So if we can communicate that through data and statistics, I think that would be helpful. Thank you guys again.
Yes, sir. And just as a kind of an additional piece of information, I know Councilman Winkler, and this is along the same lines as your question, Councilman Owen, about the deployment on vehicles. Our air unit also has that capability. ALPR is built into the video camera on the air unit, and they alone have recovered 21 stolen vehicles that they've identified in the year.
Thank you, Councilman. Next in queue would be Councilwoman Parrish Wright, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I first want to thank you all for this presentation. I think I really appreciate Deputy Chief McKinley and presenting this. I have residents that are on all sides of flock cameras, some who are concerned, some who want more of them. And so my questions are centered around the equity and the checks and balance. Will like, as you share the presentation and you share where our district and numbers are, I would like to know the installation dates, if that's possible, of those cameras. Some of us who have come in to council most recently did not help make those decisions, so I inherited a lot of the camera, and we've also requested Metro Safe cameras due to what our constituents need. I won't insult the Black people, Black men, or women in the audience by saying that we know that racial profiling is real. We know that this is technology, and I want you to have the best technology possible to solve crimes and to do exactly what you presented here. But we also know that not only our police departments all over the world have been complicit in racial profiling and issues. So I am always looking at an equity lens, a fairness lens, and a checks and balance. If we have to check on our technology. We can't just let it go. My question is around when Deputy Chief McKinley was presenting about the passwords and the logins. There was a part where there's a two-factor. And I'm just wondering, from what recently just happened with the sharing of the login and all of that controversy, were new things put in place, or was it always a two-factor situation? Just want to make sure something like that doesn't happen again.
That two-factor authentication went into place after that incident.
Okay, thank you. And then will it be possible to get a list with the dates that the flock cameras were and I don't need where they are, but I would like to know when they were installed in the district so I can think about the balance and all of that, because I have questions around the solar power ones. Are those still at the $3,000 rate or a different rate if they're solar powered? Just trying to see how that cost factor is.
Yes, ma'am, I believe that we should be capable of getting you that information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Last one in queue would be my co-chair, Councilwoman Hawkins.
Thank-
Who? To what?
Thank you. I have a follow-up question, Chief McKinley, on the two authentic passwords or whatnot to get in. I know a lot of people in my district are just concerned. Can you just explain specifically or give me any materials just as far as, I know I've been advocating to, and already advocated to have in the budget last year, a fly camera at the beginning of Algonquin. I got a lot of constituents that did not want it there in fear of feeling like that their license tags, let's say if their tags were bad, then here come the police. And I kept saying, so I just want it publicly be known, it's not a target, right?
Right. Yeah,
So
I
can
mean,
you explain, like, if they're in places like parks or anything like that, if somebody's tags is bad, they're not just pulling them over for things like that, it is
correct.
specifically geared towards,
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. They're not looking for expired tags. It's not an enforcement camera. It's not a speeding camera. There's no tickets being issued. These are criminal cars that it's looking for. So cars that are in NCIC that would have a warrant or some sort of alert on that vehicle because it was involved in a crime or it's stolen or like the chief said, there's missing persons, some sort of crime that would have be connected to that car.
okay. Thank you for that clarity.
Thank you. Another member, Council Member Scott Reed has another question.
Thank you, and this is just a follow-up question. Did I understand that you will not disclose location of these flock cameras?
Yes, sir. The individual locations we prefer not to share publicly because it might benefit criminals to be able to try to plan to avoid those.
Okay, and I completely understand that. And second question, that obviously would include the locations of HOAs in suburban cities, correct?
Correct, and those would not be ours to share anyway.
Okay,
So,
all right.
yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I've got a couple questions I wanted to ask. What determines the placement?
So, I mean, a lot of things. So we'll look at crime data, crime numbers, hotspots of where violent crime may be occurring or property crime may be occurring, whether that's burglaries or auto theft. And then also infrastructure. So is the intersection or the location, is there the appropriate infrastructure that would support the camera? And then, is it practical? So, you know, we want to make sure that many of these cameras are on major thoroughfares. So, we're not going to necessarily put them on a side street, because if a crime is committed on a side street, the suspect more than likely, or people involved, are going to need to go to a major thoroughfare that's nearby, so that we'll make sure that we have them on major thoroughfares, not necessarily small side streets. And so those are the decisions and things that go into place when deciding where to put cameras and how many cameras. So there's also intersections that may have 3 or 4 flock cameras or more, because you have multiple angles, multiple different lanes of traffic, and there may be intersections that just need 1. And so there's a lot of different factors that go into deciding how many need to be placed, and then where do they need to be placed.
Thank you. I have a question here. Can you take suggestions from council on where they would be placed? Do you guys go out and monitor, or?
Yeah,
if there's been a
absolutely. And so
request?
I know Director Quorum is willing to sit down with all council members individually, go over where cameras currently are, not just flock cameras, Metro Watch cameras, and other technology that we have, and then maybe come up with a strategic plan for your particular districts of where flock cameras could be placed or need to be placed, and maybe why we can't put one in a certain area, or why it's not best that we use that area. Maybe it would be best if it was in another area.
Thank you. Another question. Can you give me a brief comparison of flock cameras and automated enforcement cameras? What's the difference?
Yeah, so, I mean, automated enforcement cameras are your speed cameras, I guess, and red light cameras. So those are cameras that they're there for enforcement actions. So they are there to issue a ticket to the owner of a vehicle for speeding or running a red light or some sort of traffic violation. Those databases aren't necessarily there for investigative purposes. And I'm not we don't have them, so I am not fully aware of how, and we can't have them in Kentucky, but I'm not fully aware of how those systems work. But Flock is more of a database that I can identify a particular suspect vehicle, and it can direct officers to exactly the location or exactly the area where that vehicle is.
Thank you. One last question. There's currently, we're the largest police department in Kentucky, correct?
Yes.
There's currently legislation in Frankfurt that wants to ban flock cameras. What would you say to this legislation?
I would say that this is not only anecdotally shown to be an important tool for us, but it's proven to be an important tool. This is a tool that we can identify and take into custody dangerous people and get them off of our streets. Technology, as Councilman Reed pointed out, I've said time and time again, is part and parcel of what we do, and it is the future of policing. And without this piece of technology, we would be greatly hindered in being able to do our job well. This is a tool that has changed the scope of policing for us. It really has increased our ability to take bad people off the street and do it in a safe manner.
Thank you. And we want to do everything we can to give you the tools that you need, and we're going to do so. This has been a very good presentation, a lot of information that's needed, and we'll do what we can to disseminate this throughout our newsletters, get us some information that we can provide, because I know there's questions, but as soon as they understand it, they'll get more comfortable, the people that are opposing. But thank you so much for this presentation. We needed it. And if that's all, no more people want to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, our next regular meeting is going to be scheduled Wednesday, March 4 at 4 p.m. If there are no other matters, this committee stands adjourned. Thank you all for coming out.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good.
grandmother taught me. And it's really taking off, and I'm so glad that I had the courage and faith to do that. And I had many women around me pushing me forward, saying, girl, you got this, let's do this, go. You meet so many people that you don't have access to on a daily basis. You have to email them, and they're so busy that sometimes they may not get back with you or know that you exist. This way, everyone comes up to you, talks to you. They're like, oh, yes, I remember you. I know how I know you. And I've made so many connections today. This has been fantastic.
We're really proud of this park and all of the investments we've been able to make here and across the community.
We listen to neighbors, to families, to the people that use our parks every day. And that feedback shapes what we build. Here at Hounds Lane Park, this new playground is a great example of that. It's designed to inspire movement, imagination, and connection.
Really excited about the new equipment we've got here, the climbing wall we've got here, and really just an outstanding place to come, have a picnic, enjoy a weekend. The investments in this park and parks like it are obviously quality of life investments as people come out, enjoy the outdoors, whether it's pickleball, climbing, playing soccer, or just taking a stroll. But they're also investments in public safety and economic development, because when people have things to do, it's a positive impact for public safety. It reduces crime. And certainly from an economic development perspective, having access to good world-class parks is something that leads people to want to live in the city and want to work in the city.
We have over 100 parks now that have Wi-Fi. We've added lights, we've added cameras, we've added pickleball courts, we've added great new pools. We're opening another new pool in May. We're improving the bathrooms. You name it, we're doing it.
We gathered this morning for a moment that is both meaningful and difficult. We are here to honor such an